The killer, a young man named Mark David Chapman, who actually posed for pictures with Lennon earlier in the day.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today, we're looking at tragic events within the music industry that left a lasting cultural mark.
Before you knew it, the lights went out and it was all over.
The Beverly Hills Supper Club fire. On May 28, 1977, a disastrous fire broke out at the Beverly Hills Supper Club before a show by singer John Davidson.
Beverly Hills there, as you can see, has been almost completely destroyed. The place was packed this evening. John Davidson in concert. There were at least 5,000 dinners served there this evening, on top of all of the other people that came there not to eat, but just to see the John Davidson program.
Overcrowding, inadequate fire alarms, and a lack of emergency exits were cited as major factors in the devastation that unfolded. The fire that engulfed the building caused its poorly built structure to cave in on itself.
We could see that place was ablaze, and I have never seen a fire like that.
With no way to help those trapped inside, 165 people lost their lives, while more than 200 suffered injuries. It was the worst multiple death building fire in the U.S. in 55 years, and it highlighted the need for proper safety features and construction materials in the nightclub industry.
If you go into a building now and see a sign on the wall that says the occupancy limit of that room, all can be traced back to the tragedy on that hillside 40 years ago.
It was a truly dark day for the United States. The Astroworld crush. The worst thing about 2021's infamous Astroworld crush was the fact that it probably could have been avoided.
On the evening of November 5th, tens of thousands of people in NRG Park in Houston waited in anticipation of rapper Travis Scott's performance.
The event's organizers were aware that fitting 50,000 people into a space designed for under just 35,000 was a dangerous proposition. But when Travis Scott's boisterous live performance went ahead, the problems became very clear.
Minutes into Scott's show, that same section had pockets of extremely high density.
The crowd became physically overwhelmed during a particularly lively show with no way to escape. 10 people tragically lost their lives. A further 25 were hospitalized, and more than 300 sustained some form of injury. Blame was directed at the show's organizers, Scott himself, and even guest performer Drake. Overall, it was hard to shake the feeling that someone should have seen this coming.
It's just something that you'll never forget and something that's truly traumatizing.
Phil Spector commits murder. Phil Spector was a producer-songwriter known for his innovative creation of the wall of sound method in popular music, and for credits ranging from the Beatles to the Ramones. These days, his reputation precedes him for a very different reason. Spector has been described as a violent man and a gun-toting menace in the years following his most prolific era.
He appeared eccentric, troubled, lonely, a man mired in his own darkness.
But in 2003, he shot and killed actress Lana Clarkson at his home in California, leading to a conviction for second-degree murder. During the trial, it was revealed that he had pulled a gun on at least 4 different women in the past, often when his romantic advances were rejected. He spent 12 years in prison before dying at the age of 81.
But after one mistrial, Spector was convicted in 2009 of second-degree murder.
His legacy will forever be that of a convicted murderer who happened to write songs.
The murder of Selena. Selena was a true giant of Latin pop music, boasting a series of hits in the 1980s and 90s that saw her achieve breakout success globally. But just as her fame began to truly reach the next level, she was shot and killed by her friend Yolanda Saldivar, who managed Selena's fan club and boutiques.
34-year-old Yolanda Saldivar was arrested late yesterday after a 9-hour standoff with police. Crowds cheered as Selena's alleged killer gave herself up to authorities. She's accused of shooting Selena once in the back with a .38 caliber revolver.
When their business relationship began to deteriorate, Selena fired Saldivar. The former associate thus decided to make 4 separate attempts to kill the pop star, failing to find the right time and place. When she did eventually get Selena alone, a fatal shot rang out around the world for years to come. The idol was just 23 years old at the time.
It is a verdict that thousands of Selena fans have been hoping for, and they believe justice has been done tonight.
Jimi Hendrix dies at 27 years old. The 27 Club refers to the troubling trend of famous musicians who passed away at the young age of 27. Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse, Robert Johnson, Jim Morrison, and many more fit into this bleak trend. One particularly impactful death was of the legendary guitarist Jimi Hendrix, who passed away in 1970 from an overdose at the height of his stardom.
During his short career, Hendrix flailed his electric guitar into some of the most unusual sounds of an unusual music.
Regarded as one of the greatest guitarists to ever touch the instrument, Hendrix was a force of nature on stage and an innovator in the studio. But substance use disorder took hold of him in his mid-20s, and when he finally pushed things beyond the limits, it left the world of music without one of its brightest lights.
But I don't know why. Excuse me while I kiss the sky.
Kurt Cobain's death. After an era when hair metal and the glamorization of excess were becoming the norm, the grunge of Nirvana was a breath of fresh air.
Light my candles in our days, 'cause I found God. Yeah.
In their frontman Kurt Cobain, they had a singer who was becoming a figurehead for the disenfranchised youth of his generation. But his depression and growing dependence on substances was taking its toll on his personal life.
Either I've accepted it or I've gone beyond insane to where I can deal with it emotionally. I really don't care.
After undergoing detox treatment during a particularly troubled period, he took his own life in April of 1994. This sent tremors throughout the music world as they watched yet another brilliant young musician join the 27 Club.
But for younger fans, his music captured the spirit of the difficult transition from youth to maturity.
The Rolling Stones at Altamont. When the Rolling Stones tried to replicate the success of Woodstock with their own counterculture festival in late 1969, it seemed like a shoo-in for success.
Well, the Rolling Stones tour of the United States is over. They wound it up with a free concert at the Altamont Speedway for more than 300,000 people. There were 4 births, 4 deaths, and an awful lot of scuffles reported.
But hiring the notorious biker gang the Hells Angels as security was a disastrous move, and the infrastructure was clearly not capable of handling the demands of all these people.
I can't do any more than just ask you, to beg you just to keep it together.
Fights broke out, and many people were injured in the chaos. 4 people lost their lives, including Meredith Hunter, who was killed by a Hells Angel for drawing a gun mid-show. The concert has since been described as one of the darkest days in music history and a real moment of change in the 1960s.
All right. See you.
The murder of John Lennon. The death of John Lennon was no overdose or downward spiral. It was a legendary musician who was murdered in cold blood by a fan for no reason.
I was probably angered at his phoniness. I mean, I wasn't fuming, but I was saying what a fake he was, what a phony he was. Then I thought to myself that I was going to kill John Lennon.
Mark David Chapman hated Lennon's suggestion that the Beatles were bigger than Jesus and the hypocrisy of his activism when he was so privileged. But in reality, Chapman had conspired to murder several other celebrities.
He said, "Is that all? Do you want anything else?" And I felt then and now that he knew something subconsciously, that he was looking into the eyes of the person that was going to kill him.
On December 8th, 1980, he shot Lennon 4 times in the back in front of his wife, Yoko Ono, and then waited calmly for the police to arrive, reading aloud from The Catcher in the Rye. All the while, Lennon was 40 years old.
John Lennon,
outside of his apartment building on the west side of New York City. The most famous, perhaps, of all of the Beatles. Shot twice in the back. Rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, dead on arrival.
It was a moment that brought the entire world to a standstill. Great White at the Station nightclub. When the heavy metal band Jack Russell's Great White took the stage at the Station in Warwick, Rhode Island, what should have been a fun night of music turned into a horrific tragedy.
The club was a small, single-story wooden building. It had no sprinkler system and didn't have a license for pyrotechnics or firework displays.
Soundproofing the venue with extremely flammable material was a huge mistake. When the band's pyrotechnics caused a fire during their set, it did not take long until the entire room was set ablaze.
The band had just started playing. Ironically, the man taking these pictures was shooting a video about safety at pop venues. Then the pyrotechnics ignite the ceiling. The cameraman is already backing away.
Poor emergency precautions left the crowd at the mercy of the flames. 100 people lost their lives on this day, including the band's guitarist, Ty Longley, while another 230 were injured. It remains the fourth deadliest nightclub fire in U.S. history, and a day that affected thousands of people.
There was no malicious intent on anybody's part. You know, it was just a horrible, horrible accident.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The day the music died. The tragedy that later became known as the day the music died involved a terrible plane crash in which 3 iconic musicians lost their lives.
When it finally sunk in to my head that he and Richie and the Big Bopper and the young pilot Roger were dead, it was just like, from that point on, it was just like somebody turning the lights out.
Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson Jr., along with pilot Roger Peterson, all perished in this fatal accident near Clear Lake, Iowa.
The next night, Richie won a coin toss to get his seat on that small plane. It crashed shortly after takeoff.
Poor conditions led to the pilot losing control of the vehicle, crashing it into a cornfield. Each of these musicians had so much more to give. The Big Bopper was 28, Buddy Holly was 22, and Richie Valens was 17. It was a truly heartbreaking moment for 1950s culture.
The day the music died, as that phrase goes, it was a seed. And in that seed was Richie and Buddy and the Big Bopper.
What do you guys consider to be the darkest day in music history? Let us know in the comments section below.
The club was packed on that night of death for a performance by singer John Davidson. Exactly how many people were at Beverly that night never has been established, but it apparently was well above the legal occupancy limit of 1,600.